Equations and problem solving. Definitions. Consecutive integers are integers that differ by 1. For example, 20 and then 21. Consecutive even or odd integers are integers that differ by 2. For example, 13 and 15 are consecutive odd integers. 6 and 8 are consecutive even integers. VIC number 1 states that some problems contain 2 or more unknown quantities. To solve such problems, first decide which unknown quantity the variable will represent. Then express the other unknown quantities or quantities in terms of that variable. So some examples. The length of a triangle is, the length is, meaning equals, 6 inches more than its width. So we're comparing our length to our width. So if we draw a picture, we know that our width is W and that our length is 6 more than our width. So we can represent this length in terms of W, which is W plus 6. So when we define our variable, everything is in relation to our width. So our width, W is going to represent our width, and our length of the triangle is going to be the width plus 6 because it is 6 more than the width. Now we are representing 2 unknown quantities using the same variable. We want to know it talked about perimeter. Well, perimeter means we add up all the sides. So we can either do it in 2 ways. The width plus the other side width plus W plus 6 plus W plus 6. Or 2 times the width plus 2 times the length, and the length is represented by W plus 6. Either way, you are going to get the same answer. Now we have a multi-step equation to solve. You know that our perimeter is 24 because it told us in the problem. 2W plus 2W, because I distributed here, plus 12. I combine like terms. 2W plus 2W is 4W. Subtract 12 on both sides. I get 12 equals 4W. Divide by 4. So W equals 3. That is the width. But the problem asks you what is the length. So to find the length, you have to substitute W into the equation for length, which is 3. So 3 plus 6, because our length is 6 more than our width, so the length is 9. Our width is 3, our length is 9. Make sure that when you're solving these that you answer the question, not just find the answer for the variable. Let's look at number 2. The width of a rectangle is, remember, is equals, means equals, and it's saying that the width is 2 centimeters less than the length. So you're comparing your width based off your length. So when we draw our picture, we're going to say that L is represented by the length. It's the one we are unknown. We do not know. Our width is going to be the length minus 2 because it says the width is 2 less than the length. So we have our length and we take 2 away from it. Just like in the previous problem, we add up all the sides for perimeter. Well, perimeter is 16 equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Well, the width is L minus 2, so I distribute here. And I get 2L minus 4. Combine like terms. 2L plus 2L is 4L minus 4. Now it's a 2-step equation. Subtraction, so we add 4 on both sides. So we get 20 equals 4L. I want to get L by itself, so I divide by 4. So our length is 5. That's what it's asking for. If it were to ask for the width, we would substitute 5 in for the width and say 5 minus 2, and our width would be 3. Consecutive integers. So consecutive integers are numbers that go one right after another. For example, 2, 3, 4. The difference between those numbers is 1. To get from one number to the next, we add 1 each time. So it's numbers in a consecutive order. So it says the sum meaning addition, of 3 consecutive integers is 147. Find the integers. Well, first we need to define our variables. We're going to let n represent our first integer. N plus 1 is going to represent the second number, the second integer. And it's n plus 1 because to get to that next number, if we had 2 as our first integer, to get to 3, we would add 1. Our third integer is going to be represented by n plus 2 because to get to the third number, if we start at 2, we would add 2 to get to 4. So now it says sum. So we are going to add up all of our integers. So n plus 1 plus n plus 2, and that it says is, which represents equals, 147. Now this is just a multi-step equation. We want to combine like terms, so n plus n plus n gives me 3n, and 1 plus 2 gives me 3. Now it's plus 3, so we subtract 3, and we get 3n equals 144. Divide by 3, and we get n equals 48. We are not done once we find n. N only represents the first integer. We want to know all 3 consecutive integers. Well, if n is 48, so we plug in 48 for n for the second, 48 plus 1, so our second integer is 49. Plug in n for n plus 2, 48 plus 2 is 50. So our 3 consecutive integers, which means one number after one right after the other, our answer is 48, 49, and 50. If we were to check this, 48 plus 49, 49 plus 50 does equal 147. So we are correct. Let's look at another one. The sum meaning add, of 3 consecutive integers is, meaning equals, 48. We're going to define our variable just like we did in the previous example. So x I'm going to represent as my first integer. To get to the second integer, we add 1. So we have x plus 1 gives me the second integer. The third integer is x plus 2. It says sum, so that means add them all together. So x plus 1 plus x plus 2 is, meaning equals, 48. Combine like terms, so x plus x plus x is 3x, and 1 plus 2 is 3. Subtract 3 because we're going to get x by itself. So we have 3x equals 45. Divide by 3 on both sides, x equals 15. That is only my first term. To get the second term, we add 1 to 15, so the second term is 16. And to get the third term, we add 2 to 15, so our third term is 17. These are consecutive because they go one after the other. Now these two are a little different. This one says the sum of 2 consecutive even integers. So for example, 2, then 4. Well, to go from 2 to 4, you have to actually add 2. So our first is still going to be x, but to get to the second integer, we're going to have to add 2 to get to it because they're not right beside each other. There's a number in between them. So now sum, so we have x plus 2 is 118, so equal to 118. Combine like terms, so x plus x is 2x, plus 2 equals 118. Subtract 2 on both sides, we get 2x equals 116. Divide by 2, so x is 58. That is only our first integer. We plug in x for the x plus 2. 58 plus 2 is 60. 58 and then 60 are consecutive even integers. And if we add 58 and 60 together, we do get 118. So those are our 2 answers. Number 4 says the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 81. you're going to set this up just like we did even integers. Because if we go from 3 to 5, we're still adding 2 to be able to get to that next odd number. 5 to 7, you're adding 2, so on and so on. But we have 3 of them, so x is going to be our first integer, x plus 2 is going to be the second, and x plus 4. Because think about it, if we start at 3, I have to add 2 to get to 5. Well, if I want to know the next integer, I would have to add 4 from 3 to get the next odd number. Sum means add them together, so we have x plus 2 plus x plus 4 means equal 81. Now, x plus x plus x is 3x, and 2 plus 4 is 6. Now this is just a simple two-step equation. Subtract 6 on both sides. We're left with 3x equals 75. Divide by 3, x is 25. So our first odd integer is 25. To get to the second integer, we have to add 2 to it, and we get 27. To get the third one, we will add 4 to x, and we get 29. 25, 27, 29 are consecutive odd integers. And if we add them together, we do get 81. So let's try 2 practice problems. The first one, a square and an equilateral triangle have the same perimeter. Find each side of the square, each side of the square is 12 feet. Find the length of the side of the triangle. Now when you first read this, you'll probably get confused because they're comparing equilateral triangles and squares. But take it one step at a time. Draw your square. And it tells you that each side of the square is 12. Now, we'll find the perimeter because it says the perimeter of the triangle and the square are the same. So now that since we know all the sides of the square, it's easy to find the perimeter. So perimeter equals 4 times the length. And I can put 4 times the length because all the sides are the same. Well, 4 times 12, so our perimeter is 48. Now, we need to go to the equilateral triangle, which we do not know the sides. But an equilateral triangle tells me that all sides are the same length. So I can label these all with the same variable. So, just like the square where we did 4L because we had 4 sides that were the same, for the triangle, we're going to have P equals 3L because we have 3 sides that are all the same length. Now, we were told that the perimeter was the same. So I can substitute the 48 from the square as the perimeter for the triangle. So now we have a one-step equation. 48 equals 3L. This is multiplication, so we divide. So the length of each side of the equilateral triangle is 16. Let's look at number 2. The greater of 2 consecutive even integers. So we have 2 even integers is, which means equal, 6 less than twice the smaller. Find the number. So we have 2 consecutive even integers. So our first one is going to be x, and even, remember there's a difference of 2. So the second one is x plus 2. Now it said the greater one. Well, looking at x and x plus 2, which one is the greater one? Obviously, the one that you're adding 2 more to it. So the greater one, x plus 2, is meaning equal, 6 less than twice the smaller. Well, x is going to be your smaller number. So twice the smaller and 6 less than that. So minus 6. Now, this is just a equation with variables on both sides. We will solve for x. So subtracted 2x from both sides. I get a negative x plus 2 equals a negative 6. This is a plus 2, so I subtract 2 on both sides. I get a negative x equals a negative 8. Remember, this is the same thing as a negative 1 times x. So I'm going to divide by negative 1 because I want this x to be positive and completely by itself. So now I get x equals 8. Well, remember x represents the smaller of the two numbers. So then the larger one, I would add 2 to it. So the larger number would be 10.